Hello, everyone. I hope you've been enjoying the session, the great session so far. My name is Siân Morgan. I'm a marketing analyst with Dell'Oro Group, focusing on enterprise class wireless LAN and campus switching. And we're about to embark right now on a great discussion about the monetization of Wi-Fi 7, about creating new business opportunities and new business models. But to kick off the session, I thought I would share with you here I'm going to share my screen. I thought I would share with you some context about, yeah, here we go, full screen mode, about how Wi-Fi 7 or how new technologies get adopted into the industry over history. So you saw some data earlier from my colleague, Jeff Hainan, on the consumer side, on the service provider side. This is looking specifically at enterprise class wireless LAN. And you can see how adoption of this technology follows a similar trajectory over history. There are some changes, like for instance, with Wi-Fi 5, you can see the fact that it was released in 2 waves, sort of altered somewhat how it would be, how the revenue would grow, how the revenue share would evolve. And we can see also with Wi-Fi 6 how it was split between 802.11ax, the Wi-Fi 6 band, Wi-Fi 6 technology, and then Wi-Fi 6E, which operates in the 6 gigahertz. So what the other thing you can see here is that here we are on 2025 and the cusp of this inflection point really for the adoption of Wi-Fi 7 revenues. So these are worldwide revenues from manufacturers and vendors of enterprise class access points. It's been a slow start because Wi-Fi 7 access points have been commercially available since the second quarter of 2023, but we didn't really see material volumes until the second quarter of 2024. And so we have real data here from 2Q and 3Q 24. We won't have the 4Q data until March. And so everything beyond 4Q 24 is our projection of how we expect the market to evolve. Now you can see that in the past, it takes about 6 years for a technology to reach its revenue peak. We expect a similar trajectory this time for Wi-Fi 7. So expecting to see a revenue peak in 2028 of those access points. Interestingly, what happens after that is that shipments keep growing, so units will keep growing in share. But when a new technology is introduced, then the price starts to come down and it brings down the revenues. So we are expecting, as you can see here, a low volume of enterprise class access points in Wi-Fi 8 being shipped at the end of 2028, and then a slow adoption into 2029 of that generation. But I think the key takeaway here is we're at an inflection point for Wi-Fi 7. The ramp up and the acceleration of this adoption is going to drive business opportunities and new models. And I have this great panel with me here to talk about how that's going to happen. So I have Kevin Robinson, who is the CEO and president of the Wi-Fi Alliance. Tiago Rodrigues, who is the CEO of the Wireless Broadband Alliance. And Rob Roy, who is SVP at T-Mobile Broadband. So congratulations, so welcome guys, and I look forward to a great discussion. I want to kick off maybe the discussion about something that UC just said previously. He said that the biggest deal about Wi-Fi 7 is actually Wi-Fi 6. And by that, he was saying that access to 6 gigahertz is sort of the killer feature of Wi-Fi 7. But we have also seen earlier in the like on the panel on spectrum allocation that not every region has the same access to 6 gigahertz. So my question is really, will access to 6 gigahertz in Wi-Fi 7 really help carriers? Will it drive new business opportunities? And maybe I can open that up to Kevin. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And maybe Tiago, you can chime in as well, because I know your 2 organizations have been instrumental in making the 6 gigahertz happen for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. And I think you get it exactly right, Siân, and UC had it right as well in terms of what he was trying to get to, which is it's incredibly hard to overestimate the impact that 6 gigahertz has had on Wi-Fi and the potential it has on Wi-Fi moving forward. When you look at more of the kind of the emerging use cases of what we hope to deliver through Wi-Fi, whether it is more of the residential setting with, let's say, advanced, high performance gaming situations, or whether they're talking into more of an enterprise situation where you need a lot of spectrum diversity, lots of channels in use, or even getting into something like a hospital. That additional spectrum just gives you so much in terms of a new ability, even to the point of we're seeing now certain product classes like gaming consoles. Those devices are actually not being shipped to regions that do not have the 6 gigahertz band because it is such an important ingredient in delivering the type of experience that people are going to expect out of those devices.
Wow. That's pretty that's really interesting. And what about Tiago? How do you feel that it's going to drive business models or opportunities?
Yeah, Shane. So first of all, hi everyone. Great to be on the panel. Definitely, Wi-Fi 7 and 6 gigahertz, like Kevin said, will bring a massive improvement. But one of the areas that the Alliance has been working and several of our members are really keen to explore and maximize is the latency new capacities that can come. So like Kevin said, either high-perform gaming, high-speed streaming video, all those applications, they require a very low latency. And we are very enthusiastic about the capacities that Wi-Fi 7, including using the 6 gigahertz, can bring in terms of very low latency to all those use cases, either healthcare, industrial 4.0, and others that can take advantage of that.
Very interesting. So really opening it up there to maybe specific verticals that couldn't use it before, or it didn't have the latency requirements that they needed. So that's really interesting. What about Rob? Like from the service provider perspective, do you see access to 6 gigahertz as a game changer, or is it just more of the same?
No, definitely not. Thanks. Appreciate the time. Just real quick, Rob Roy from T-Mobile. Work on our broadband, both fixed wireless and fiber. So I get to see it kind of from two perspectives, two different types of technology coming into the house. I think both these gentlemen said it really well. Look, 6 gig is going to provide access to greater bandwidth. Drastically increasing kind of the available channels, reducing congestion. That has all great things for us. It improves the efficiency just from the multi-link operation that Wi-Fi 7 can bring to utilizing multiple bands across the spectrum. So now we have an added band from 2.4 to 5 to 6, all simultaneously working together. That will enable us to have better density handling, and then as Tiago just said, low latency. From a carrier perspective, I think that does a couple things for us, which we're really excited about. One, it just enhances the customer experience. So think about faster, more reliable home broadband. That could be a differentiator in markets that aren't deploying the 6 gigahertz capabilities of the Wi-Fi 7 enablement. The new offerings, which again was announced or discussed just moments ago, but we think about it as are there ways to create premium tiers? Potentially there's premium tiers for gamers. There's different tiering for smart home enthusiasts and those types of things. So looking at the in-home experience in a bit of a different way. And then if I put my 5G kind of T-Mobile hat on and our fixed wireless approach, we've got 5G and Wi-Fi offloading. So how can we offload our mobile data more effectively onto those Wi-Fi 7 or next-gen networks, reducing the strain, improving our customer experience, and just helping have a better in-home experience. And then just kind of the ability for us to think about, if you go back to those new service offerings, enabling private networks, different slices. This is probably more for enterprise when you talk about those private networks or privatized solutions, but we can start to create a hybrid 5G, Wi-Fi 7, kind of ecosystem that complements each other within it and make it more efficient and effective. So that's kind of how we're starting to think about how these are. I think from a vendor perspective also, that then pushes opportunities against new routers, new IoT devices, integrating 5G into those devices as well, and creating kind of new use cases that allow for low latency applications and potentially edge computing as well.
That's great. So you have put a lot of food for thought in there for us, Rob. So thank you. And I'd like to unpack a lot of what you just said, because there's some really interesting points. Before we do that, we got a question from our audience that I think Kevin could answer, which is how do we know which country has a 6 gigahertz open? Kevin, I think you could maybe
So I'd say
help that.
the easiest way is to go to the Wi-Fi Alliance website. So www.wifi.org, wi-fi.org. And we have a subpage on 6 gigahertz, and we have a global map that we update essentially every week. Anytime there's a new development on 6 gigahertz from a regulatory perspective, it covers which countries have the full 1200 megahertz allocated. So, for example, Canada, United States, South Korea, Brazil, et cetera, as well as where other countries in Europe and around the globe, where they are in that regulatory discussion. So that's something we always keep up to date. So I would just encourage people, if you're looking for what's the latest and greatest, just hop on there.
Very useful resource. Thank you, Kevin, for that. So going back to Wi-Fi 7, so 6 gigahertz, we're aligned. It brings a lot of different opportunities for different segments. What about other features? We've touched on them. Robert, we mentioned MLO. Some of the enterprise access points are coming out with IoT radios. There's the new QAM. There's we talked a little bit about the latency, which is a feature brought on by some of these advances in technology. So what about other features besides access to 6 gigahertz? Have they fallen flat because UC says the big deal is just the 6 gigahertz, or are there really other things in there that could help drive business models? Maybe Tiago, I could start with you and ask what you think about that.
No, definitely, Sean, all those new capabilities, including MLO, the ability to have more determinism on the data packets that are exchanged. So all those features, definitely, just by themselves, they improve a lot already the efficiency of Wi-Fi 7. So I can even say, following on the words of Rob, from my perspective, there is 3 pillars that somehow are aligned really to boost the Wi-Fi experience overall. So by one side, we have the new standard Wi-Fi 7 with 6 gigahertz available. Then we have all the work on bringing QoS on the Wi-Fi, so we can mark all the data packets. We can start thinking in creating prioritization on the traffic. And then a third pillar related with open roaming, and now I can onboard completely automatic a device to a network. So when you combine these 3 pieces, we can really bring that quality of experience that Rob said, and I think that's a huge opportunity ahead of us.
Great. That's a really interesting way to look at it. So thank you. And in particular in MLO, I'm kind of interested if do you see this as, and here I'm sort of opening it up to Kevin and Rob and all Tiago as well. But do you see that this is going to be a game changer, maybe held back by device support at all, necessary for specific verticals? What are your thoughts on MLO?
I guess I could jump in, and I think it's hard the way you asked this question of are these other capabilities in Wi-Fi 7 important? And in a way, it's a bit unfair because 6 gigahertz was like the biggest development in 25-year history. So and people tend to have this a lot of focus on that. But the reality is, MLO, absolutely a great capability. There's kind of 2 flavors of it. There's the flavor of it that looks to kind of aggregate 2 spectrum bands or multiple channels to increase throughput. But honestly, I think probably more interesting is the latency improvements you get from the ability to and more deterministic latency, right? So you have a higher level of assurance that you're going to in fact get those low latency rates. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of give an example on that, MLO in a lot of ways goes hand in hand with 6 gigahertz. So there was a recent demonstration that we were doing for regulators in I think we might have been in Bahrain, and we were showing what happens when you have 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz, and you're trying to. And this is in a conference, so you have hundreds of people, so real world through the air type of demonstration, and this demonstration was able to get still low, single digit, certainly sub 20 millisecond, but even into single digit latencies consistently when we are full buffer overloading the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz channel. But just the fact that even though the channels tend to be very saturated, just the fact that it had the opportunity to insert itself into whatever space might have been available to get that latency sensitive packet through had an incredible advantage. So again, you're looking at 99th percentile, 95th percentile of low latencies. And so now that's something that a developer, somebody who's working on applications, gaming, whatever, a service, they can rely on that. They can now, as opposed to, hey, I'm not really sure what I'm going to get. They have that confidence, like, hey, yeah, if I'm running over this Wi-Fi 7 link, I can now depend on that level of quality. And I think, Tiago, you said it very well. We're really in this kind of new age of the Wi-Fi industry where we're moving, I think, away from some of the numbers on the box, which were always about like the high data rates, and instead focusing on the consistency of the experience, the quality of the experience for the end user. And so a lot of these things that Tiago just talked about, MLO, et cetera, they all kind of feed into that trend.
So we should expect to see new applications being developed and but that can rely on this amazing performance, right? So that's amazing. And I'm sorry, I think I just cut you off. So please go ahead. Is that Tiago?
No, Rob, that was Rob. Sorry. No. Please, I jumped in on top of you. But I just wanted to add really quickly, and I think it goes along with your point around the new application is efficient. One of the things that as someone that tends to get motion sick from time to time, the point that Kevin was just making around the low latency, this could have a massive effect on adoption of AR and VR because of that low latency setup. You're not going to have that jitter. You're not going to have that motion. And so that could be a really exciting, but that could also really talk to, expansion of healthcare, telesurgeries, all of those different things that really require that end-to-end precision to feel in room like. And I think that, one of the applications that's going to be most seen first is going to be things like AR and VR through the various Oculus, the Apple, whatever's coming out today. So I just thought it was an interesting point on the latency. I agree that all of those things kind of all work together. It's not just one item within this ecosystem that does it. It's all of these kind of all of them combined form this really powerful opportunity that, as it opens up to the developer community, could be really exciting.
Yeah, that does sound great. And while we're on the topic of the impact, we just got a question from our audience. So for you, Rob. So regarding the enhanced user experience of Wi-Fi 7, do you see any KPIs such as NPS? So I guess that's Net Promoter Score, yep. It improving that, or maybe reducing truck rolls or incoming calls, or like, do you see an impact around those KPIs as well?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think when you can reduce congestion on the network, it's going to lead to fewer complaints. It's going to lead to improved customer satisfaction. It's going to be one of those types of things where it's a set it and forget it, right? Like today, I think at times you're on one end of your house and the other end's not getting a great signal. What's wrong? Why is that happening? The customer, it's got to be the ISP. It's got to be my service. It can't be the fact that I've got 5 brick walls in between that and this, what have you. And so anything that we can do, I kind of, I look at it as these low touch improvements. You're not going to see it. You don't visually see the waves come through, but you're going to see it in your performance. And the best indicator of that is a non-call. Someone not calling in. So improved NPS 100%. That's the ultimate goal, is that you are going to see a satisfaction, but someone not having to call and say, hey, my Wi-Fi is down. Hey, my TV is, it's pixelated or what have you. You're not going to see those types of things if you deploy this in the right way. And so, certainly, truck rolls have a piece in that, but I look at it as we advance technology, what things can we do to enable the customer, the end user, to be able to self-serve, to understand what's happening within their network, to allow us to leverage AI at the fingertips of the customer to redirect these different bands. If they're using things, we can intelligently start to say, hey, Rob's on a video call right now. The TV in the back isn't on. Let's not push any juice to that thing. Let's make sure everything's coming to the Wi-Fi. Let's allow the end user to manage these things in real time if needed.
That's great, because now our homes depend on Wi-Fi to operate, right? We can't watch TV, we can't listen to music, we can't do anything without it.
I got a text message from my dryer yesterday. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
No, and
Go
I
ahead,
was just,
Tiago,
yeah, very quickly, Siân. Rob touched on a super important point. So when we combine all the capabilities from Wi-Fi 7, 6 gigahertz, fiber to the home, or even fiber to the room, with AI, it's a very powerful tool to improve that quality of experience, because we have automatic algorithms somehow working on our favor, working in favor of the troubleshooting for the carriers. Yeah, can have massive impact on customer care calls and customer support.
That's a really good, interesting point. I was going to bring this up, but I thank you for both of you for talking about this, because everybody's talking about AI and you feel like it's going to revolutionize everything. And so what you're saying is there is going to be an impact on Wi-Fi as well, right? And you're bringing up an aspect of like optimizing, making it much more efficient, whether it's from a home perspective or whether it's in an enterprise as well, I guess. Are there any other ways that AI could change how we're delivering Wi-Fi that we haven't touched on? I don't know, Kevin, if you have any thoughts on this.
Sure, and I think we've already touched on the elements of, how can AI help us manage the network itself, so maybe making the network more operationally efficient. Another interesting area is once you start getting into the convergence of Wi-Fi sensing in AI, right? So now we're getting to this point where using the same Wi-Fi network that is already in the home, a service provider can start getting a sense for, okay, well, what's happening in the home? Maybe they want to offer a security offering, and Wi-Fi can take the role of a motion sensor, right? Maybe it's something where you're interacting with your laptop, and there's a common use case. You get up and walk away, the laptop knows that you left, and it can automatically go into a lock mode. But so some of these things that we're now able to determine, let's say falling within a home for elder care, you combine that with then AI to do, to then intelligently deal with, okay, what happens next? Do I need to alert was it actually a fall? Do I need to alert a loved one that maybe, your grandmother or grandfather is laying on the floor and you need to go and check on them? So I think that's another place. Once you start getting that intersection of Wi-Fi sensing and AI, there's a whole host of new applications that become possible.
Yeah, I'm sure some things we haven't even thought about yet, but that's really interesting as well. We only have a few minutes left, and I want to make sure that we talk about new sort of evolving business models and industry collaboration. I know that Tiago, you've been very involved with things like open Wi-Fi and open roaming. I also, and Dean, I want to pick up on something Dean had mentioned in his introduction, because he was also talking about the importance of in-building coverage. And he had this interesting slide that said, 6G needs Wi-Fi for ubiquity, but not over convergence. So I want to kind of open it up to how are the new business models or new collaborations going to help us enhance user experience? Could you talk to us a little about that, Tiago?
Yeah, I can kick off. So definitely in the Alliance, recently we just launched a 6G vision paper, and comes a lot about what Dean said, that Wi-Fi basically is the de facto indoor wireless broadband technology, is available in our houses, our offices, in many of the public locations that we go, either hotels, coffee shop, restaurants. And all these new capabilities can really boost the capacity, and that open up a huge opportunity, special for MNOs, MVNOs, how to optimize their future investments, including 5G, including 6G. How can they take advantage of all that capacity that is available, and somehow they can utilize it in their favor, and understand, okay, for specific applications, specific customers, specific devices, I can use one or the other if I have both available, or I can just go Wi-Fi because it's the only thing available, or I can just go 5G because it's the only thing available at that precise time. So it opened up all these opportunities, but comes up with a huge challenge. So we need MNOs, MVNOs starting to open up to new stakeholders, either venue owners, like hotel chains, supermarket chains, retail brands, and many other corporate offices that, in fact, they have this massive capacity available on Wi-Fi.
So I have a service provider background now. I focus more like on enterprise market, but I do have a service provider background. So you're going to forgive me for being a bit skeptical. Why? I mean, we've been talking about this kind of convergence for so long, and we have achieved, we have made some progress, but it seems like there's a lot to do. Is there a reason why it's going to work now, or why it's going to start to accelerate now?
Yeah, I can share my views and some of the feedback that I got in the Wireless Broadband Alliance, and Rob can can correct me if I'm wrong. But many MNOs, service providers, carriers, they have been struggling with the monetization of 5G and somehow developed a strong business case for it. And if we are starting to talk about 6G and a new wave of investments, definitely we need to be smarter. And at least the discussions in WBI is how can we be smarter in all those investments, make sure that there is a good ROI coming back to all the investments made by the MNOs.
Great. And Rob, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, look, I think maybe if I encapsulate it into like, kind of four things that are the challenges, if you will. It's, from our perspective and other, it's first and foremost like just device adoption. So how do you create some sort of mass adoption of next gen devices? Without without compatible devices, we're not able to really fully realize the ROI on the upgrades of the network. But then that comes with a cost of deployment. So infrastructure upgrades, the ability to make sure you invest in the right areas with the new access points, with the new devices and the new time. We talked earlier about the regulatory variability. So some regions are slower to approve and not approve, limiting global scalability, which then goes to device adoption and what manufacturers are going to build over time, which then goes to how do you lower the cost, because you build more for more people that'll get the cost down. And then I think just from our side, there is competition from private 5G slices. So when we're talking to enterprises, what can we do to marry the two of a private 5G network alongside a private fixed Wi-Fi 7 opportunity? But this helps with, I think the two are very compatible because it helps with, indoor, outdoor, mobility intensive use cases. So think about, pick, pack, ship, and deliver. You may have Wi-Fi in the warehouse, and then you have 5G along the route, and then pick Wi-Fi back up in the warehouse again. So working all of those things together to create that ecosystem is something maybe that hasn't come together all that often. And a lot of it comes down to just the cost to get into. And so how can we continue to bring down costs, come up with more unique ways to monetize the activities to encourage the build out?
Great.
If I could just say one thing,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just very briefly, because I think I would echo everything that Rob and Tiago said, but frankly, I was floored today. So I'm at a 5G Europe conference in Brussels. So policymakers, mobile operators, et cetera. They did a poll on what is most important in the lead into 6G and what is most important for 6G. Things like, speed, latency, whatever. We're down at the bottom. Guess what was number 2? Better coordination and integration with Wi-Fi. And
Wow.
I was frankly floored to be in this environment and to have people starting to say that and recognize that.
Wow, that's really, because I think they see these business opportunities that are behind there, right? Whether it's lowering costs or opening up new markets. So I think that's a great place to end this discussion on. So I thank you very much, gentlemen, I feel like we could have gone on for a bit longer. And I'm very sorry for the questions that we weren't able to get in the chat, but keep asking them and keep listening going forward. It was really, really nice talking to you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay,
Thanks, talk to you as well.
you.
bye-bye.